yourself. I'm delighted to say Caitlyn is with us in the studio this morning.
How
Welcome.
exciting!
Great to have
be
you.
in town and everything. Yes.
How
yes.
are you?
I am doing great. Thank you. Thank you for asking. It's been a long road, to say the least. But I have to admit that now, after all of these years, I'm probably in the best place I've ever been in my life. I'm the happiest. I'm the most content. My life is, and people kind of always are surprised by this, is so much simpler now. You know, it's just you wake up in the morning and be yourself. It's nice.
How important is it for you to tell your story?
Really important. Every journey is different. If I have learned one thing over the last 2 years, because 2 years ago when I came out on Diane Sawyer, I had never met another person who was trans. I just couldn't give myself away. So I really didn't know anything about the community, but I had a, what I've realized in that 2 years is that every story is different. You know, they put me as a spokesperson for the trans community. I am not a spokesperson for the trans community. I am a spokesperson for my story. And every time I tell my story either to my children or friends or to God, it's like taking thousands of pounds of weight off my shoulder. It's so freeing, and I feel so good after it's over with, because I don't have to lie to that person anymore. And the final part of the chapters, all the different chapters over the last 2 years, was working on the book. And it was a lifetime in the making, but 2 years of almost 8,000 pages of memoirs, of secrets, of things that I've been through that my family didn't even know. Because when you struggle with this, you struggle it in the shadows. And I didn't want to be in the shadows anymore. And I wanted my entire family and the public to know my story.
So you kept meticulous notes, did you? Or some level of notes as you were going through about...
notes in my head.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at remembering everything.
So when you went back over
sat down with Buzz, Buzz Bissinger, a Pulitzer Prize winning writer, and we just had such a great collaboration between the two. Yeah, we've been on the New York Times bestseller list. I think we're #2 here in England, and you know, because I grew up as a poor little dyslexic kid, and so I'm sure my high school English teacher, if she's still around, but is probably not, is rolling over her grave saying, "Wait a second, you know, I'm a New York Times best-selling author." That's like amazing to me. But it was the final chapter that I needed to tell to the public, to tell my story honestly.
So what was your first memory of not being comfortable as Bruce?
At a very young age. I see that picture up on the monitor over there, and I was looking at it a second ago. Here we go. We got it up there. I'm looking at it a second ago, and I'm thinking, wait a second. There I was, you know, what, a year and a half year old. My mom bought me that shirt. Maybe that collar was the problem. I don't know. I keep looking for answers. You know, what was it? Maybe I really like that collar. I don't know what it is. But no, it's something, when you're gender dysphoric and you deal with something like this that I've dealt with my whole life, you deal with it your entire life. It's just how you deal with it. Every person does it differently. Some can identify at a very young age. I did, but there was, when I was growing up in the 50s and the 60s, there was not even a name for it. The only thing you had is maybe Christine Jorgensen, who there was a big tabloid thing about her coming over to Holland and having surgery done, but I still at that time I couldn't identify with that. And so
you point out in the book actually that the first time that the term gender dysphoria was used was in 1974. So when you were born, it wasn't even a term.
Yeah, really, it wasn't even. They didn't know what it was, and I just knew that I was different. And I found sports, and that's a place where I could, what I call, hide, or it could be my distraction. And I was good at it. I could take a guy who I knew, in some cases, good student, good reader, all those types of things, didn't have any gender issues, go out there on the football field and clean his clock. Yeah, and that was important. And there was at Newtown High School in Newtown, Connecticut. And so it was a way for me to cope with myself, to prove my masculinity. Never knowing how far I would go with it, went a long way with it. But I remember the day after the games, I was in a hotel room in Montreal and didn't have a stitch of clothes on. I got the medal on the bathroom counter, and I put the medal on, I look in the mirror, and I go, oh my God, what have I just done? Because as I looked in the mirror, I knew that wasn't me. But did I build this character up so big, so masculine, that I'm stuck with him for the rest of my life? And it was kind of scary.
So did you feel you were trapping yourself more and more?
In a lot of ways, I was. I made that character so big. And not that Bruce wasn't, I love playing Bruce, you know. I mean, Bruce was a good person. He raised a tremendous family, he did a lot of good things. And I'm very proud of what I was able to accomplish that way. But I got to the age of 65 after struggling with these issues for so many years. And I was right back where I started from. You know, back out in Malibu, where I was living. Chris and I had gone our separate directions. I had raised 10 wonderful, great children. And I'm still dealing with the same issues I was dealing with when I was 5, 6 years old. What the hell am I going to do with my life, you know? And after long conversations with God, with my pastor, with all my children, I thought, you know what? In God's eyes, how does he see how I'm doing? And I thought, finally, maybe this is the reason he put me on this earth at this time and at this place in society, because I couldn't do it back in the 80s when I was really struggling. I couldn't do it. And I said, maybe I can come forward, number one, live my life honestly, but also in doing that and having a platform, maybe I can bring some understanding to the world on this issue. And it was very fulfilling. So, and that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
So take us right back then to the little boy Bruce and the first time you...
Cross-dressed.
Yes, you put on women's clothes,
I mean,
put on lipstick.
That's going way back, because I didn't know why I was fascinated by either my sister or my mom's closet, you know? And I remember going in there, fascinated by all of that stuff. And
at what age?
Just getting some clothes. My hair was short, because we're talking the 50s, late 50s. You know, so I put a scarf over my head, threw on a little lipstick, got in one of my, you know, my mom's outfits or whatever it was, and actually went out of the house and walked around. We lived in an apartment complex, walked around the apartment complex. And little did I know that that would be a pattern that I would do all the way until I was like 65 years old. And I didn't know why I felt so comfortable in doing that. That it felt like me, but it was also the great taboo. I couldn't tell anybody, you know. And so, yeah, that kind of set up the pattern. And when you go through something like this, you always wonder, why? Is it the excitement of it? Is that what it's all about? Am I really trans? Am I just a cross-dresser? Is this a sexual thing? You go through, for all those years, everything in your head. And eventually I came to the point where I realized that this is me, this is who I am.
So what was the first conversation you had with anybody about it?
Probably my first ex-wife, had a few of those. My first ex-wife, after we had been married for a while, I told her I had some issues here, and these are the things that are going through my head. And
that was the first time you'd spoken to anybody?
Yes, first time. Couldn't speak to my sister, my family, nothing.
Your sister Pam, I think we've just seen a picture of you with Pam, and you're very close. And
yes, my sister Pam, we've been very close and continue to stay very close. And then even as I went on with Linda, second marriage, we were only married for like 4 years. We weren't together that long, had 2 wonderful children. I talked to her some about it, and I was really struggling at that time during the 80s, really, really struggling. And we went our separate directions. Then for the next 6 years, I just dropped out of life. I lived in my house by myself. I didn't go out, I didn't do anything. I went out to work once in a while. I became like a real hermit, secluded. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. Yeah. So I didn't fit in with the guys, didn't fit in with the girls.
So that first conversation, when you put into words what you'd been feeling, and also the way that you had been living in private, just talk us through how, what you were doing, and the fear of somebody actually finding out, potentially, because obviously you were,
you
were actually going out in public,
but I was good. I never got caught. Yes, I'm very proud of that. Well, when Chris and I, after many years of struggling all through the 80s, when Chris and I met, I had been on like hormones for 4.5 years. I had electrolysis done to get rid of the damn beard. I had a couple of little things done. And so I got to, because I thought I was going to do this before I'm 40. You know,
you'd taken the decision, hadn't you, actually?
Yes,
prior to meeting Chris, that was it.
I'm all in. I'm going to get this done. I was in therapy for about 5 years, you know, kind of preparing for this. And I got to 39, and I couldn't go any further. 1989. I just couldn't go any farther.
How far had you gone? You'd had the electrolysis?
Well, electrolysis, hormones, stuff like that. Been out.
So you were growing breasts?
Yeah, I had all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I had, yeah. So.
So why did you feel then at that point you couldn't go any further?
It wasn't time. That's the simple answer. It just wasn't time.
Why not?
Because of society.
Yeah.
Because of everything. The only one at that point that had even been out there as trans was Renee Richards. And she kind of got hammered for being trans in 1977 when she came out, was trying to play on the women's professional circuit, tennis circuit. And it really wasn't, within society, it wasn't accepted yet. Not till many years later. Many years later, after, you know, Chris and I had been together for 23 years. We had raised a beautiful family, wonderful, smart, intelligent, hardworking kids. Really did a great job. And there I was, back in Malibu. But the times had changed at that point. We had had other trans people go before me. This issue had come forward. You had Transparent, you know, coming out. You had Laverne Cox had talked a lot, of Janet Mock, other trans activists that have been out there who are great, intelligent, articulate women. And I thought to myself, maybe it's time for me to add my voice to that conversation. And maybe I can make a difference too. So, yeah, and so I finally had the courage to get through it. But it's been wonderful.
But it was, as you've described, stop-start through your life,
where
you were
my whole life was that.
Doing things and then pulling back. And
Joanna, I never thought we'd be here.
Really?
Living
Did
our
you never
authentic
think?
self, yes. No, I never thought I would have the guts because of who I was. And I was getting destroyed in the tabloids for years and years.
And as life went on, the stakes got higher because your fame just grew and grew. I mean, the reality thing with Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I know. And I didn't do that for me, certainly. I did it for my children and to give them a platform and an opportunity, and they all took it and grabbed onto it. Have done extremely well with it. But yeah, and I built this character up, built it up, built it up, built it up, and then bang, there I was, kind of stuck with it.
But it sort of, did it effectively, you sort of found yourself in that by accident? Because I know when you met Chris, she was introduced to you as a mum from Beverly Hills.
Yes.
You didn't know what was going to be coming down the track.
No, we had no idea, especially, a lot of the things we went through in the beginning, and I was honest with her. Did I downplay it? My conditions? Absolutely, I'm sure I did at the time, because I had gone through 6 years of hell, and I was coming back, and I can't do this. And you decided
you wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
so
and I
couldn't
do it at that time.
You invested in the marriage.
And so I invested in the marriage, and then more children, and for the next 23 years, I carpooled. You know, I moved kids around all over town, and I loved doing that. I was a good parent, and but it never leaves you who you are. And most of my life has been, now at one point I said those were distractions that I had, and boy did I get in trouble with the kids. Oh, so we were just a distraction? And I go, no, okay, I got to reword that. It was a distraction from who I was, you know, and that took a lot of time, and with my kids, they all knew.
They all knew?
Oh, they all knew.
From when?
They walked down through the grocery line, and on the tabloids, they got a picture of me, my face on some woman's body saying I'm transitioning, okay?
But I'm talking about sort of younger than that. When do you, so tell it, when do you think they first had an inkling?
Well, one time, you know how technology will catch you? Kylie, I think it was Kylie's room or Kendall's room, one of the two. one of them had been stealing clothes from the other one. So, being the sneaky little sister, they turned on their computer, put it up, and put that little security alert on. So if there was any movement in the room, the security would go off, and you didn't even know it was going. And then they would come home. Well, it just so happened everybody was gone for like 5 or 6 hours, so I had a little time to be myself. And Kylie had a full-length mirror in there, so I walked in just to take a look at stuff that I had on, and walked back out. And about 2 hours later, all of a sudden I hear this screaming from the other room, and I went, "Damn, I got caught." Technology got me on this one, and so yeah, that's on a few occasions, but everybody kind of brushed it off. But then the tabloids.
Did they realize? Did they speak to you about it?
No, nobody ever spoke about it. Everybody stayed quiet. We didn't speak about it about 2-3 years before I came out. Besides my sister knew, a couple of people knew a long time earlier, or a long time before, was Kimberly. Kimberly, she's wonderful, but she's always very nosy and wants to know everything that's going on. And she came up to me one day after she had moved out and had her own house and goes, "What the hell's going on with you?" And at that point I just thought, it's time to start talking, be open with them, because they all knew something was up. So I said, "I'll come over to your house tonight, where it's nice and quiet, and we'll sit down and we'll talk." And I talked about my issues and all the things that I've dealt with. And she was great in talking about it. But then, for the next 2 years, never brought the subject up again. And every time you confess in somebody and pour your soul into that, you think, "My God, finally I can talk to somebody in the family," And we never did again. And it always bothered me. I'm thinking, "Oh, does she think I'm kind of crazy, this and that?" Until 2 years later, we were discussing it. And I said, "That kind of hurt me that you never, I brought it up that time, and you never talked about it again. You never called and said, just, how are you doing?" And she says, "You know what, I just didn't know if I should. I thought it's been a secret for so long, maybe I should just continue to keep it a secret." And I thought, okay, I get that. I understand that. I can see why. And since then, she's been a great ally and a great friend through all of this. So everybody doesn't quite know how to handle it,
The book is called The Secrets of My Life.
Yes.
You describe it there as a secret. We are going to just take a pause for the news, but we will be back with you because you're talking there obviously about Kim, and there's a very moving scene in the book where you're clearing out your closet later when you're transitioning.
Oh, yeah,
she comes along and wants to go through stuff with you.
There's so many moving things and moments in my life.
Lots more to talk about. I mentioned the moment when you were clearing out your closet. That was sometime later because it was a conversation that you had and then didn't pick up on again for some time. But she came to you, didn't she, when you were transitioning and you were clearing out Bruce's clothes, and she wanted to keep something.
Yeah, that was, I knew when her father passed away that she had kept some of the clothes, because I remember moving those clothes from one storage area to the next. And for me, it was kind of tough, just because, first of all, I didn't think it would be difficult clearing out my closet. I've wanted to clear out my closet and bring in a whole new fresh stuff all my life. But then when I actually got there to clear out the closet, it was like, oh my God, I'm throwing away this person who has been part of me all of these years. And the clothes kind of symbolize a lot of that. And Kim wanted to have some of the clothes and that she could distribute within the family. Anybody who might want it. And surprisingly, a lot of the kids did want the old stuff. And so it was kind of tough on me to do that. Those are kind of along the milestones. The next one was getting name and gender marker changed, all the way down to I was born in the state of New York. Now there's 31 states in the United States that you cannot change your birth certificate gender marker. Fortunately, in New York, you could. And so I was able to get everything changed all the way back to my birth certificate. And I remember when all that was going on, it was almost like you were throwing this person under the bus. He was kind of gone. And honestly, I liked Bruce. Bruce was a good person. He did a lot of good things.
And you felt that.
And I felt it, and the family felt that.
I was going to say,
everybody
for the family,
feels it.
how are the relationships now? Because you talk about there being a void, actually, with some of the kids.
Yeah. The relationship is different. In some cases, as you can see, I have a lot of kids.
Got a lot. Yeah.
In some cases, it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
In other cases, I think for right now, it's made us a little distant,
so
which is to be
who's
expected.
It got better with, and who's it become more distant with?
I'd rather not put names on labels on that, but yeah, a lot of the kids I have gotten a lot closer to, and then other ones have struggled more with it.
Why do you think that is?
It's they're facing a loss in the family, loss of old Bruce. What I have tried to convince to my kids, that you didn't lose old Bruce. You got me, okay? And I'm a better person today than Bruce ever was. More understanding, more giving, bigger heart, more comfortable with yourself, happier than Bruce ever was. Plus, I don't have any secrets with you. I'm not hiding anything. I'm totally open. And that's a wonderful feeling to be in your life. And that's what the book's all about. It's getting to that point in life. Because you know what? Everybody has stuff. Everybody has things that they have to deal with in life that are tough. And this is my stuff. And the book is about how I dealt with it all of those years, in good ways, in bad ways, but eventually gotten to the point where I can live my life honestly and authentically.
You talk
and that's a hard transition to make.
The loss for the kids, and in the book you say that a couple of the kids said to you, "Can we still call you Dad?" Do they still call you Dad? What do they call you now?
I'll always be their dad, especially like Kendall
and Kylie. Do they all
and Kylie.
call you Dad? Do they?
Yeah. It kind of gets a little tough. Dad, her.
Yeah.
That's a little tough on some of them, but I'm not the type of person that's going to get hung up on that. I'm their father. I've been their father their entire life. I know within the, quote, trans community, boy, they fight. You got to get all the pronouns right and the names right and all that kind of stuff. I'm probably a little more lax than most people because, you know, I did it later on in life. I got more baggage. I got more kids. So I'm very open with them. And, you know, if they mess up, they mess up. I've messed up in the last 2 years, you know. So.
We had a question actually which
Ooh,
sort
good.
of refers to what you're talking about there. Someone asking, does anyone ever accidentally refer to you as he or Bruce by accident?
Of
and
course.
If so, how does that make you feel?
Within the trans community, that's like a no-no, okay? Get it right. I'm not that strict. Actually, the other day, amazing, I was at Starbucks, and I'm walking out, and this guy comes walking up, and because I take about anywhere 30, 40, 50 selfies a day, all day long. That's what I do. I take selfies with people. And he actually said, "Oh, Bruce, can I have a picture?" Now, obviously, he messed up. And at first, now nobody's called me that in a while. And at first, I kind of backed up a little bit, and I said, you know, that's kind of strange. But on the other hand, this is kind of the way I feel. Probably 95% of the people that come up and say something have never met anybody who's trans, okay? They don't understand the subject. They don't know anything about it. They think we're kind of like crazy people on the fringe of society. Well, you know what? We're not. We are an integral part of society. I've met some of the most wonderful, great, smart, intelligent people in my community. It's great. So when I have something like that, I am not going to be confrontational. I just said, great, let's go, you know, and took the picture and never mentioned it and moved on. I want that first and only maybe impression of somebody who's trans to be something that's very positive and good.
What are the ways that you think improvements can be made? Because we look at the Trump administration. You actually voted for Donald Trump as president, didn't you? And
I did.
Since coming in, he has withdrawn a piece of federal guidance that allowed students to use whichever bathroom or changing rooms match the agenda that they identified with.
Okay.
How do you react to that?
Okay. I've always been on the Republican side just because I'm more conservative in my thinking. I'm not into big, massive government. I think the people of our country are going to make our country strong, not the government. I think the government kind of messes things up. The Republicans have been more on that side than the Democrats, although they've obviously disappointed me quite a bit lately. Trump was our candidate. So obviously, I'm gonna vote that way. But I am not a big supporter of the Republican Party. I'm not a big supporter of Donald Trump. Okay, I am a big supporter of my community. Okay, and that's what I'm fighting for.
So now, does that make you regret voting for him with what he's done?
It doesn't make me regret my vote yet, but it is very disappointing, and I have been very verbal about that. I thought Trump would be better on these issues.
Why did you think he'd be better on these issues?
Because I talked to him.
What conversations did you have with him?
At the national convention, he spoke about the LGBT community. He had supported a girl named Jenna Telekova from Canada, who was a trans woman who entered the Miss Universe pageant. And he was all in support of her, saying if she makes it down here, she is totally welcome. He did a lot of good things. He hires a lot of gay people in the LGBT community. And so I thought he would be okay. For a Republican, maybe he can make some changes. He came in, and I think he's kind of been influenced a lot by a lot of the people around him, not to take away any of his responsibility, because he is the president and he eventually signed that. But Obama had put into place an equality thing through Title IX when the whole North Carolina bathroom issue came up. And he rescinded that, which really upset me. I was very verbal about it. I do go back to Washington, D.C. I do talk to people there.
But do his actions then undermine what he said to you, and therefore undermine your faith in him completely?
There's other things. No. Well, for my community, as I got to keep a close eye on this guy, okay? Yes. But of other things he's done, since I'm more on the conservative side, I like his Supreme Court nominee. I like if he can eventually lower taxes,
more conversations with him about
make it easier to do business in our country. Instead of the highest tax rate in the world, let's get it down to the lowest business tax rate.
Would you try to have more conversations with him about the LGBT community?
I will have more conversations with him in the future, yes.
How will you do that?
Yes.
Are they scheduled?
Do you want to be there?
I'll come and...
Yes, no, I'm fighting. That's where my loyalties are, is with my community. I want to make it better.
But do you have, can you pick up the phone to him and have a conversation? How does that work?
I can't tell you all my secrets, girl. Can I? I do have communication, and it's not just, I work very closely with a group called the American Unity Fund, and their sole mission statement is to help the Republican Party do a better job when it comes to all LGBT issues. And they do a wonderful job. They are on the ground all day long. They know where all the bodies are buried within the Republican Party. And I work very closely with them to kind of change the thinking of the Republican Party. I feel like the best thing that the Republican Party can do is do a better job with LGBT issues.
Would you go into politics?
I have been asked that. Okay, would I go into politics? I do a lot of political stuff, okay, but it's mostly all behind the scenes. I feel like, as far as my issue, in issues that I have dealing with the Republican Party, I can do a better job behind the scenes. I have been asked that question quite a bit. To be honest with you, over the next year, I'm looking into it. I want to know, and I have to be very smart about this, where can I do a better job for my community, okay, and bringing the Republican Party around when it comes to all LGBT issues. Is it from the outside? Kind of working on the outside in the perimeter and working with everybody to get the Republicans to change their thinking? Or is it better off being on the inside and actually running for Congress or a Senate seat or whatever it may be? Can I do more good there? And those are the things that I'm evaluating. And so when I did mention that a couple of weeks ago on a show, the next thing you know, of course, the media, I'm running for president. Okay, yes, yes. They have me running up against Trump for president.
Could you see yourself ever running for president?
No, I was thinking about starting to be maybe the mayor of Malibu, and then slowly work my way up through the political ranks, you know, and start somewhere. But yeah.
But would you sort of say that now that is potentially a goal for you one day, running for
not
president?
so much a goal. I have to find out where my goal is to do a better job for my community. And I have to figure out where that is. Where can I be to do a better job, to bring understanding to the LGBT community, especially the T portion of that. And so yeah, I'm going to figure that out, and I'll do that over the next year.
Rosie has tweeted with a question for you.
Okay.
What would you say to people who look to you as a trans role model and want to go through it?
Boy, you know what? I read this report over the last couple of years. The amount of trans people have doubled, and I'm going, being trans is very, very difficult, and it is a personal decision for what you do. Have I brought a little bit more understanding besides the people that went before me, the Lavernes and all these other people who have been before me? Did I bring more understanding and maybe show some courage and how good it is to be able to live your authentic self? And because of that, has it inspired other people? Yes, it has. Honestly, people come up almost on a daily basis and tell me that. But it is a personal decision for anybody. It's a major decision. We have such issues in our community. The murder rate right now for trans people.
20 in the States last year,
yeah,
and 10 already this year.
Yeah, and already we have 9 since the beginning of the year already this year. We had one 2 weeks ago in Miami. Mostly all trans women of color. I mean, that's where the real problems are. We have a suicide rate that's just out of control. 41% of trans people attempt suicide before the age of 21. Really major issues that we have out there. We have to solve those problems. We have to make people feel good about who they are. Being trans is part of humanity. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't stop at the border. You know, this is about humanity. It's about a marginalized part of people and who we are. It's been around forever. It's nothing that's new. Maybe in the last 20, 30 years it's come more forward, but it's nothing new. It's been around forever. And so I don't want to be responsible for people going through this, because when you transition, it's not just you. It's an entire family. It's every loved one you have. It is a huge, major decision in your life. But I also would like to show that if that is what you do, that you're going to make it. It's going to be okay. And hopefully society will accept you and your family will accept you.
I've been admiring your necklace.
Yeah, my little Caitlyn.
It says Caitlyn.
Actually,
what was the story with that?
Maura, the head of the ESPYs, right after the ESPYs were over a year and a half ago, she gave it to me after it was over with. And I've just pretty much worn it ever since. She's the executive producer of the ESPYs.
Ah, okay.
And she gave it after the show. Okay. And yeah, and so we've been friends ever since.
When you go to bed, what is the last thing you think at night? You said to me at the beginning of the interview, you did not ever think you would get to this point.
I had lost enthusiasm for life. Back in the old days when I was training. I wasn't making any money. I was living on a poverty level, $10,000 a year. I was training my butt off. But I get up every morning and I was so excited about the day. I couldn't wait for it to start. I had training to do, I had this to do, I had competitions coming up. And I thought to myself, you know what, when I was on my long runs, I never want to lose that enthusiasm for life. I always want to wake up in the morning excited about the day. Well, I lost it. And I lost that for many years. Now, I've got that enthusiasm for life back. I can live my life authentically. I can put my head in the pillow at night and know I had a good day. And I'm in a position where I can make a difference. And I'm playing in the 4th quarter of life. And what a great opportunity in life to be able to play the last quarter of your life with in a lot of ways, a very marginalized community that's out there that's totally misunderstood, and change people's minds and go around the United States, go around the world, and present yourself in a very positive way that can make a difference.
Are you scared of anything anymore?
Oh, no. Girl, what I've been through, I can handle anything, yes.
Great to meet you. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was so much fun. I'm glad you enjoyed the book, and it's funny, isn't it?
It is. There's dark, obviously,
we have to show the humor in this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.